My husband became controlling after our wedding, then demanded I wear a tracker while he was away. What I did before he came home left him speechless. Throwaway account as my husband and in-laws are follow my main. I, 29F, have been married to my husband, 30M, who I'll call Alex. Alex and I met in college during our freshman year. We started off as just friends, and got married 7 months ago. I've gotten along with his family, but we aren't super close, but we're friendly enough. The problem is that Alex has begun to make me incredibly uncomfortable. Firstly, he's begun to ask me who I'm meeting with, where, what we plan on doing, how long every single time I leave the house without him. At first, I just thought he was being protective and a good partner just in case something happened, but then he started checking my phone after the visits, vetting and researching each of my friends as well. He also has been pursuing me to link my bank account to his, as he's in charge of the finances when he was perfectly fine with keeping them separate before. We fight about it almost every day. Finally, yesterday when he was preparing to go on a work trip for 2 weeks in California, he demanded I wear a tracker so he could keep an eye on me while he's gone. I can't do this anymore. I feel like I'm suffocating, and his family, who I've spoken to about his worrying behavior, just said he's being careful and protective as a good husband should. I need to gather my things together and find a way to be gone before he gets home without tipping him off. He's always threatened that if he ever found me cheating on him he'd turn in divorce papers the same day. He keeps a filled-out copy in his desk. I'm going to submit those the day I leave. But there's so much to do: Bergen, finding a new place to live, seeing if my job has any transfers available, packing and moving in 2 weeks. His return flight May 11th, so I need to move quickly. I'm posting here because I don't have any close family, and I can't risk dragging my friends into this as we share the same friends. I just needed a place to vent, and ask if anyone has any advice on the easiest and safest way to do this. Edit: oh my god, you guys are amazing. I never even thought to not use his divorce papers. I'll check for cameras before I start any packing or prepping. I may also shred his divorce papers just in case and look into getting a lawyer for myself. I'm in a no-fault divorce state, that much I so remember, which will help. I'll update again when I know more. The tracker he wants me to use is a small clip to put on the belt or waistband. I'll wear it unless I'm going or doing something related to me leaving. No pets yet, thankfully. Update: so I've gotten a lot of support and helpful advice along with questions I thought I should clarify before I proceed with the update. Some asked why I'd be hiding things from Alex regarding going out and who I'm meeting with. I don't, and I have nothing to hide. However, when he begins to then double-check everything I tell him with the other people there, right down to each person I talked to and what I said. Did I send any text MSGs? Did I order food? How much did I eat? That's when it started to feel like I was slowly being pushed into a corner. It didn't start that bad, but gradually grew worse over time. All of the Reddit subs my in-laws' families are part of our related gardening and DIY, so I highly doubt they'll see this. If so, by the time they do, I'll hopefully be gone. I talked to my job and explained things to my manager. And they promised to look into openings in other states to see if they could get me into one. They'll have an update on that in 3 days. I trust that my bank account is secured, considering he's tried to get into it before and failed. I found one camera in the kitchen, another in the living room, and one in our bedroom. As such, I've left them in place for now and done all other planning, either in the bathroom pretending I'm taking a bath. I'm honestly staying away from the domestic violence services as my sister-in-law is unfortunately higher up in those, considering she volunteers there, and I have a feeling if I did show up there, they would know in a heartbeat. I can't look for apartments until I get the update from my work, but either or I'm still gonna be leaving the state. The day before I do, I will be changing my number carrier and wiping my laptop and all of his electronics before I do. I've met with 2 lawyers so far and had them look over the paperwork. My husband had prepared and both said that it did have some clauses in it. That could have caused me some trouble down the line. What alarmed all of us close the fact that several of those clauses dealt with future children, and not as a hypothetical. Like several hair suggested, I have a feeling he fully intended on getting me pregnant to keep me trapped and tied to him. There are 3 other locations my job could send me to, and I have, as a precaution, begun looking into all 3 cities and housing in the areas. Just in case one of those, this is the one they send me to. Even if they don't have an opening that they can push me into, then I will just have to quit, move, and figure things out on my own. I have enough money to live and survive for a few months until I can pick up another job. Unfortunately, all of our friends are mutuals and would likely be unaware of the consequences of saying or sharing anything I do or say with my husband. I don't have any surviving close family, and obviously my in-laws are not a good resource to rely on. I am on my own, unfortunately, other than the wonderful bonds I've begun to make here. I will update again if I get more information or something else happens. Otherwise, I'll update when my work gets back to me. I do plan on leaving before he returns, though. just to make sure that I'm not anywhere near here at that time. Update 2, good news. My work has an opening I qualify for that will not only shift me across the country, but also comes with a salary increase as well. I've started telling my in-laws and friends that I'm planning a surprise outing for when my husband gets back for just the two of us. This way, people don't give me odd looks if they see me out and about. I've even gone as far as asking MIL to show me his favorite recipes. Meanwhile, I found a moving company that, while small, is willing to work in a storm. The reason is in 5 days, we're supposed to get hit with a large storm front. I plan to shut off the breaker and say we lost power if he asks, just as several people here suggested, and even send him a short clip of the storm. I will have all of my stuff moved that afternoon, and I will be flying out once the weather has cleared enough to do so. I have a lawyer who will push my divorce through, and I've filled out the necessary paperwork so that I don't have to be here for it. I'm not suing for assets or alimony, and I've shredded his divorce papers as well. I've set up a cheap payphone plan through Cricket until this is all said and done, at which point I will find a new carrier, number, and phone. This one is being wiped and left behind. My laptop is provided by my work, and the IT department inspected it thoroughly and it was clean, thankfully. No other electronic aside from my laptop and new phone will be coming with me. If Alex needs to talk to me, he can do it through my lawyer. Not sure if anything else will happen. My fingers are crossed that he doesn't think anything's amiss until after I leave, and I'm not turning the breaker back on when I do. He can when he gets home. My work is covering the plane ticket, so that at least is one expense I don't have to finagle in. Update 3, it's been a busy week, but I've gotten so much done. Firstly, I am now out of the house and am currently in a hotel while I look for an apartment. It's a big city, bustling with people no matter where you look. We had a pretty bad storm system hit back home, that actually lasted 2 days. High winds, thunder, lightning, and even hail everywhere. I didn't take much from the house: my documents, clothes, and important sentimental items. I left all of the furniture and electronics behind. I cleaned the house top to bottom and took pictures on my phone so he couldn't claim I damaged anything when I left. My lawyer has already started divorce proceedings, and my husband will be served on the 8th. His plane is due to land early morning, and the sheriff will be there at the house waiting for him. He is very much about public appearances and reputation. My lawyer will be calling him as well to inform him that I am more than willing to air out everything to the public about his actions if it means securing my freedom from him. I will go to court as long as I must to get this pushed through. I haven't told our friends or his in-laws yet. I will do that while he is on the flight to prevent him from getting wind of it before he's handed the divorce papers. I will be calling around and explaining why we're getting divorced, to try and prevent him from twisting this into somehow being my fault. I don't want him trying to claim I had an affair or something, so I want to get the truth out before he can twist this. I'm doing okay. I'm tired, but yet I feel almost jittery and off-kilter. I keep looking over my shoulder and monitoring what I say even when I don't really need to anymore. Hopefully that will fade soon. My work is covering the cost of the hotel, and I'm working on getting my other things in order. I also need to find a new GP as I want to get a full test just to make sure everything is okay. I don't know when my next update will be, probably when the divorce papers are filed or if we have to go to court to push them through. I will try to keep my head up, but it feels like I'm in a whirlwind or something with so many things to do and think about. I kinda thought it would be easier once I got out of the house, but while the fear is smaller, somehow the number of tasks only seems to have grown. Update 4, sorry I haven't updated for a while, things got hectic and a bit chaotic honestly. Firstly, I'm working on getting an apartment still and have applications in at 3 different places and will hopefully hear back from them soon. I'm still going into work here at the new location, so I don't have to worry about burning through my emergency savings completely. I've gotten a lot of emails from Alex, his family, and our old friend group asking question after question. I have only sent one return email to Alex, explaining that I don't believe we are truly compatible, and it is best we separate now. That his treatment of me when I'd done nothing to deserve as such was just as much of a deal breaker as cheating was for him. I ended the email with the statement that I would not be contacting him further and anything else he needed to pass on to me or vice versa would be done through my lawyer. For his family and friends, I just typed up one email outlining everything that had happened and why I left. I told them I wished them no ill will, but that such treatment of his wife and partner was not acceptable. That should Alex get remarried in the future, I wish they would help support both partners and not just Alex. Alex, from what my lawyer told me, was livid when he was served. The sheriff actually ended up booking him for assault on an officer and menacing due to the threats he was shouting. His father bailed him out in a few hours, but with the testimony of the sheriff, my lawyer believes I have a very good chance at getting a restraining order. Alex, upon returning to the house, apparently lost his temper again, breaking the dining table into pieces as well as the TV, and putting several holes in the walls. At least that's what one of the emails from one of our friends reported, as Alex called him to help him clean up the mess. My lawyer already has pictures of the house I took, with timestamps as evidence nothing had been damaged by me. My friend reported that Alex tried to claim I'd been the one to trash the house, but the holes in the wall were at head height. Alex is 6 feet 3 inches, and I'm 5 feet 4 inches, so he knew that was false. Either way, taking the pictures definitely will help me. So again, thank you everyone here for the advice, because I never would have thought of that on my own. My work won't share details of where I am, as I do work with some higher-end clientele who value security, and that information won't be gossiped about. And no, I'm not some stripper or escort. I deal with contracts, notary, and business management. As such, even if Alex tried to use my work to find me, he wouldn't succeed. New update: it's been a little bit, and I thought I'd answer some questions before giving my update. It may be a while after this until things change. Firstly, no, I didn't bring my car. The public transport here is good enough to use without needing one. I have secured an apartment, and the building has good security. You need a key card to enter, and there is a security guard at a desk right by the entrance to the building. As part of my contract, I gave them a photo of Alex and his family so that even in the off chance they do find me, they won't be let in. The responses I got from the emails varied. His family said I was overreacting, and that I owe Alex an apology for the problems this has caused him. The pending criminal charges puts him at risk of losing his job if he's convicted. Alex sent a long email, apologizing and pleading for me to come home. He said he was worried for me, that he is willing to go to therapy if it will appease me. He wants us to remain together, and he didn't think leaving was an appropriate response to his genuine concern and worry for my health and safety. The friends gave somewhat lacking replies, saying that they didn't think Alex was ever going to hurt me and that I shouldn't be letting my imagination run away wild. As much as I want to say I was surprised by the lack of support, I'm honestly not. He intends to fight the divorce. I am letting my lawyer handle it, and I am also pursuing a protective order as well. Once I got approved for my apartment, I also froze my credit. I've changed my phone carrier and number, as well as making sure none of my documents list Alex as next of kin or POA. Some have asked why I was so paranoid about Alex and his possible future actions. The answer for that actually is somewhat simple: my grandmother. I loved that woman to bits. As a teen, she explained why my grandfather was never around. He was extremely abusive and manipulative, and her generation didn't allow divorce really. She wouldn't have been able to buy a house or get a good enough job to support her and my mother on her own. As such, she endured it, shielded my mom as she could until my grandfather died. When I felt like I may have been overreacting, I remembered how she'd said she'd always wished she'd been able to see grandfather for what he was early on, when she may have been able to annul the marriage. I don't know when I'll update again, maybe when the divorce goes through or if something big happens, but until then, I'm just trying to keep my head above the water. Moving on to the next story, and it says, my husband got jealous over the girl he led on for years at our wedding. I, 25F, got married to my husband, 24M, we'll call him Jim, a week ago after dating for 2.5 years. Jim has a friend called Misha, 22F, who was invited to the wedding. He and Misha have known each other since high school and were close friends, and Misha had a very obvious crush on Jim from what he and others who know them have told me. Jim told me this after I met Misha for the first time and confessed that he leaned into her crush and led her on throughout their high school years and for a little while after, before we got together, because he was struggling with his mental health and he really liked her attention. He seemed genuinely guilty about all of that because he thought Misha was a nice girl and a good friend, and because he showed guilt I didn't feel the need to bring it up or argue about it despite thinking it was a shitty thing to do. Plus, Misha is a nice girl who has never overstepped boundaries and has been nothing but kind and friendly towards me, and I now consider her a friend too. Misha moved away to the city last year and has done really well for herself and has a long-term boyfriend who none of us have met yet, so when it came to sending wedding invites, I told her she was welcome to bring him as her +1. The first red flag came when Jim was weirdly resistant to the idea of Misha bringing her boyfriend, but he excused it on being concerned about the number of guests we invited, and the matter was dropped. When the wedding day came, Misha showed up in this beautiful dress, nothing inappropriate for a wedding, and with her boyfriend on her arm, who I'll admit is a very handsome guy, think a Kit Harington type. She's also lost weight and has a haircut that suits her better, and I thought she looked great. We also found out throughout the night that her boyfriend is very successful and earns more than practically anyone else who attended. Throughout the reception I noticed Jim glaring at Misha and her boyfriend the whole time, and he was really cold and short towards her when she came over to congratulate us and give us a gift. He was also straight up kinda rude to her boyfriend when Misha introduced us to him. When his mom, who's always known and liked Misha, mentioned that she was glad Misha found a great guy and praised her boyfriend for being so nice, Jim snapped that, at least she won't be desperate, and hung up on me for the rest of her life, which I thought was cruel and uncalled for, but I didn't challenge him because I didn't want to argue at my wedding despite the fact that he frankly sounded bitter. The whole thing has left an awful taste in my mouth, and I can't help but think that Jim got jealous that Misha has found a guy who's honestly quite a catch, who she's clearly very in love with, and is now completely over Jim. Half update: after getting some PMs from people, I decided to go through his phone while he was napping after work, and needless to say, this marriage is over. I'll post a real update when I have sorted everything out. Relevant comments. Commenter: it's giving bitter. Can't imagine how that must have been for you. Says a lot about his character, tbh. OP: it felt a lot like watching a kid get upset at another kid for playing with a toy they personally never wanted to play with in the first place. If that makes any sense? Commenter: I get it. But I mean, apart from this, have you never had an indication of what a shitty guy he is? I mean, character matters. And he lacks a lot of it. Can imagine it being so unsettling and such a turn off. OP: he's definitely always been quite insecure, but I thought it was something he was really working on and making progress with. Update: hey everyone, I'm posting this here because I said in my last post that I would update when I was able to. Pretty much the day after my original post, I got some PMs from people suggesting that I go through my husband Jim's phone to see if he and Misha were truly just friends before this, and that nothing romantic happened between them that would explain his reaction at the wedding. He always takes a 45-minute nap after work, and so I used that as my opportunity to swipe his phone from where it was charging on his desk so that I could look through it. I've seen him put in his passcode a ton of times, so that wasn't an issue. I didn't find anything in his texts with her, but I know that Jim goes on Instagram a lot, so I checked there too. The immediate red flag was that he'd used an app lock that required a passcode to access Instagram, but the dumbass used the same passcode that he uses to unlock his phone, so I got into that right away. It's his birth year, go figure. And what would you know? I go to his messages with Misha and find messages from him the morning after our wedding telling her how beautiful she'd looked that night, how much he'd missed her, how he felt that her boyfriend being there spoiled his opportunity to catch up with her, and that he was desperate to meet up with her. Misha never replied to these messages, and he sent some more to her later that day. I won't get into what he said because they were very personal insults that were frankly just gross, but just think about the kind of stuff you would read on that nice guys subreddit. Misha left him on read, and when I clicked on her account it appears that she's blocked him. I scrolled through their messages quite far back, and I believe nothing romantic has happened between them. I wish that was all, but looking into his other conversations on Instagram, I found that he's been messaging other girls on there. They seemed like aspiring Instagram model types from our area. Most of these conversations were just him shooting his shot and getting left on read, but others had evolved into flirting, and 2 of them resulted in sexting. And the most embarrassing part of all? The nudes he was sending to these women weren't even of him. I know what his body looks like, and he doesn't have chiseled abs and isn't that well endowed. I think he must have found a man's profile on some adult website and used those pictures, just cropping the face out. These 2 conversations happened in the past 6 months. I ended up texting his mom and his brother from my phone asking them to come and pick him up from the apartment, and then I went to wake him up. I told him that I knew about the girls he was messaging on Instagram, that he needed to pack a bag and get the hell out before I started throwing his stuff out onto the street and causing a scene. He started crying and begging me not to kick him out, and swore that they were just messages and that he would never actually cheat on me, but I don't believe him for a second. Then he had the nerve to tell me that he didn't want me to tell anyone else about what he'd done, but I had left the room and started ignoring him by that point. He left with his mom and brother and is staying there from what I know. I've blocked him on everything for the time being until I'm ready to tell him that I'm seeking annulment. Thankfully, where I'm from, you can get one almost no questions asked as long as you haven't been married for longer than 30 days, and I've already looked into the process. I haven't really left my apartment at all this week, and I've been calling in sick to work because I don't feel like I can face people. I'm just so embarrassed that I've wasted over 2 years on this man and that I married him in the first place. I don't feel like I can even talk to people about this, so posting here has helped, and I'd like to thank you all for your kind words, advice, and support. I might reach out to Misha when the dust has settled, but I think I'll need to build up some courage for that. New update: 4 months later. Hello everyone, I just thought I'd give an update to my situation since I still get messages of support on here every week or so. You'll be glad to hear that I was able to get the annulment and I didn't have to go through a messy divorce with Jim. I struck an agreement with him that I wouldn't tell a soul about his cheating or what happened with Misha, and would leave him alone forever if he agreed to the annulment and got it over quickly. I did end up sticking my end of the bargain, but it ended up not matching because it turns out his brother is quite the gossip and let the cat out of the bag over Christmas after getting into an argument with Jim while drunk. A lot of Jim's family were pissed and asked for the money they contributed to his half of the wedding fund back, and some of our mutual friends have cut contact with him. A couple of our friends plastered everything on Facebook and humiliated him. It was interesting to watch the back and forth between them and Jim, honestly. I lived in our apartment and covered the rent on my own while he lived at his parents' until the lease ended back in January, and I'm now living with my dad, and I plan to stay here for a while and take things easy. In January, I also tried reaching out to Misha via text asking if she'd like to meet up for coffee to talk about anything. I never got a response directly from her, but a few days later I got a call from her number, and it was her boyfriend on the other end. He said they were both sorry for what had happened to me and that they hope I'm doing well, but that Misha thought it was best cease any contact as this whole ordeal had made her anxiety and mental health problems spiral and had landed her back in therapy. I did ask why she never told me that Jim had messaged her the day after the wedding, and her boyfriend confessed that he advised her not to get involved, and his direct words were, "I'm sorry to sound rude, but it's not her circus." I'm a little disappointed that she doesn't want to talk to me, but I get where she's coming from and I can't force her to do anything. To be honest, I think she's been looking for a way to divorce herself from our hometown and the people she and Jim knew back in high school for a while now. As for me, I'm also in therapy as I want to sort through these feelings and get back to feeling good about myself again before I even think about entering the dating scene again. I've also been firm about ending friendships with anyone who's taken Jim's side, as I don't want him finding his way into my life again. So far he's stayed away from me and hasn't tried to contact me, although his mom reached out over Christmas to ask me if there was any chance I might forgive Jim and take him back, as in her opinion, you two are just meant to be together. I didn't respond to her, and I've blocked her on pretty much everything now too. Thank you again for all your kind words and support. I'm certain leaving that asshole would have been harder for me had I not had hundreds of comments backing me up. Alright, moving on to the next story, and it says, my 27F boyfriend, 30M, of 10 months flipped out when I wouldn't keep my clothes at his place anymore. I don't know where to start, and I hope this makes sense. I'm disappointed and hurt by my boyfriend's reaction when I approached him about my concerns. Please know I'm not the petty type, nor do I ignore issues or problems. However, I make every attempt at being civil and calm when I do air any concerns. We each have our own place. A few months back my BF suggested I could keep some of my personal belongings at his house, i.e. a toothbrush, spare undies, 2 pairs, and PJs, long sleeve and pants. It made it easier in the sense that I didn't have to pack those items for when I stayed over. I stay over every other weekend. However, I've noticed that when I use my PJs or undies, they will stay in the hamper until I sleep over again. The first time washed our clothes at his place, he said he meant to do them but forgot. I said no problem. But if you don't want to do them, it's not a big deal, I'll just take my clothes home. He said it wasn't and agreed it's kind of gross to keep clothes around for 2 weeks unwashed. Nothing changed after this conversation, and this continued for a few more weeks. Except he noticed he wasn't washing his clothes either. Yesterday I became agitated that I was washing both of our dirty clothes every time I'd stay over. My time went from being with him to being with his washer and dryer while he's raiding or gaming with his friends on his PC. Normally this type of thing wouldn't bother me, but it's 2 weeks worth of his clothing plus the PJs and undies I wore the last time I was there. I ended up bringing all my clothes home. As soon as he noticed my clothes were missing, he flipped out. He accused me of leaving him, not the case at all. I waited until he was done yelling and in a soft, calm voice explained to him that I didn't want to leave my clothes there anymore because they are always dirty and I wanted to clean them. Furthermore, it wasn't fair of him to expect me to wash all of his clothes when I'm there. I told him when I come over is like us to hang out, but find it difficult when I'm washing all his clothes. He went on about having to work all the time. He works 10-hour days 4 days a week, while I only go to school. I'm in a full-time post-grad program. Then he told me to grow up. He hasn't spoken to me since then. Reddit, I'm at a loss. I really don't need him to wash my clothes. Having them there was supposed to be convenient. Instead it's frustrating. What is going on? Top comments. Commenter, he's mad that you aren't doing his laundry anymore. Commenter, you only stay over every other weekend and he uses that time to hang out with other people in gaming? You know, he might have a point. It's time to grow up and start dating a grown-up who actually respects you. Edit, thanks everyone for all the replies. I still haven't heard from him. I will update as soon as possible. I just can't believe how much this hurts. I don't have any issues with him gaming. In fact, he's got me into playing Fallout 4. But unlike him, gaming isn't my only interest and isn't always my idea for quality time. Anyways, I'm turning in for the night. Thanks again. Update, 5 days later, after a 3 days of silence, I decided to call it quits. I tried texting him but he wouldn't respond. Eventually I called his cell phone and left him a voicemail explaining how deeply hurt I am that he yelled at me and how I feel even worse now that he wouldn't respond to me. I told him I felt that it was important to me to have open and honest communication between the two of us, and since I have no idea where he is or what is happening, I assumed that we are over. I told him I wished him the best and I hope he could find some happiness, and ended the call. 3 minutes later my phone rings. It's him. I pick up and he starts bawling about how sorry he is and how he didn't want things to go that far. How all he wanted was to be able to play his games in peace, but realized he also wanted me. He asked me to take him back. I told him that he lost my trust and hurt me over a trival thing. I told him I need time to think about what I want. He hung up. So it's over. Officially. Part of me is really sad, but I know I'll get over it. Right now I just want to focus on me, and when I do find someone they will know how to do their laundry. Thanks Reddit. TLDR, no longer together, but I'm just going to focus on my program. Commenter, you did the right thing. Don't second guess yourself. Someone this explosive, passive-aggressive and controlling is a poor prospect for a long-term relationship. Good for you for seeing the signs and getting out.